Think about the operating room for a second. It's got to be one of the highest stakes environments on Earth, right? Where every single millimeter, every second counts. For over 100 years, the way we've trained people for that pressure cooker has stayed pretty much the same. But right now, a quiet revolution is taking place, and it's completely changing what it means to become a surgeon. And it all boils down to one single fundamental question.
I mean, this is the core of the whole challenge, isn't it? Every brilliant surgeon you can think of was, at one point, a total novice, and their very first time holding a scalpel had to happen somewhere. For generations, that somewhere was often in a live operating room, under a training model that, well, is now hitting its breaking point.
You've probably heard this phrase before. See one, do one, teach one. It was the absolute cornerstone of surgical training. A trainee would watch an expert, then they'd get a chance to do it themselves under supervision, and eventually they'd be good enough to teach the next person in line. And look, for a long time, this system, built on mentorship and repetition, it worked.
But modern healthcare is a different beast, and it's putting some serious stress on this old model. First, you've got restricted work hours for trainees. Now, that's great for preventing burnout, but it also means less time in the OR. That leads to less hands-on experience. Then you add in the fact that trainee satisfaction scores have been consistently low, and top it all off with the growing demands of an aging population, and you can see how the whole system is starting to crack under the pressure.
So how do you fix it? Well, the first part of this revolution isn't about some fancy new gadget. It's about going back to basics and completely rethinking the structure of the training environment itself. It's about building a better, smarter apprenticeship from the ground up. And this slide really lays out the difference. The old way, it often meant these short, almost chaotic rotations where training had to be squeezed in whenever the hospital's day-to-day demands allowed for it. Supervision could be, well, let's just say variable. But now, look at this new pilot program from the UK called Improving Surgical Training, or IST. It completely flips the script. Trainees get stable placements for at least a year. Their schedules are built so that 60% of their time is dedicated just to training, and they get mandatory professional support. Training is no longer an afterthought, it's the main event. And here's the proof in the pudding. This isn't just a nice idea on paper, it actually works. Trainees in this new structured system are able to perform procedures on their own more than a month faster than their peers in the old system. It's pretty simple. A system that's actually designed for learning creates more competent surgeons faster. Now, changing the system is a huge piece of the puzzle, but it's only half the story. The other half is where things start to feel a little more like the future. Think about how we train airline pilots. We don't just toss them the keys to a 747 on day one, right? No way. We put them in a high-tech flight simulator where they can crash 100 times without anyone getting hurt. They can practice, make mistakes, and build that muscle memory in a totally safe space. Well, surgery is finally catching on to that same philosophy. And this is not science fiction. This is happening today. Trainees are putting on VR headsets and literally stepping into a virtual operating room. They can practice something as complex as drilling into bone, feeling the haptic feedback, that physical resistance, through the controller. They can do it over and over and over again until the movements are second nature, all without a single patient being at risk. Okay, but here's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's one thing to get good at a really advanced video game, but does that skill actually carry over into the real, high-pressure environment of an operating room? Well, you can bet researchers wanted to find that out. So let's look at the data from a study on a really critical skill, drilling into bone. The big danger here is something called plunging, where you drill too far past the bone and potentially damage nerves or muscles on the other side. Now, this chart shows the average plunge depth for two groups. The group that trained with a standard VR simulator, they plunged over 13 millimeters. But the group that used a simulator with haptic feedback, where they could actually feel the resistance of the bone, they only plunged about 7.6 millimeters. That's almost a 50% reduction in error. But wait, this next number, this is the real kicker. When they measured against what's considered a clinically safe depth, a full 40% of the trainees in that haptics group made the cut. And the group without that sense of touch? 0. Not a single one of them achieved a safe depth. That is the kind of real-world difference this technology makes for patient safety. It's huge. And you might be thinking, okay, but that's just one study. Fair enough. But check this out. This chart is called a forest plot, and I know it looks a little complicated, but the takeaway is incredibly simple.
It combines the results of 23 different studies. All you need to know is that almost all of those little black squares are on the right side of that center line, which means they all favor virtual training. The evidence is just overwhelming. VR training doesn't just feel cool, it consistently and significantly makes surgeons better in a real OR. So, we've got a better system. We've got amazing technology. We're all set, right? Well, not quite. There's a third piece to this puzzle, and it might be the most important one of all. Because it turns out that practice, even perfect practice in a perfect simulator, isn't enough by itself. What really turns that experience into true expertise is what happens after the simulation is over. It's all about the feedback loop. For learning to really stick, you need to reflect on it in a structured way. Methods like this three-phase technique are designed to do just that. It's not just a casual chat. You start with the trainee's raw reactions. How did that feel? What were the emotions? Then you move into a deep analysis of the why. Why did you make that choice at that moment? And finally, you wrap up with a summary of the key lessons, the things you can actually apply next time.
But for a debrief like that to actually work, for a trainee to be honest about their mistakes, you need an environment of complete psychological safety. And this quote, known as the basic assumption, is the key to that. Everyone in the room has to start from the belief that the person who just did the simulation is smart, capable, and wants to get better. You just can't learn in a culture of fear or shame. You need to feel safe enough to fail.
So, when you take these three huge pieces, the reformed system, the advanced technology, and this sophisticated, psychologically safe approach to feedback, and you put them all together, what you get is something totally new. You get a new blueprint for how to build a surgeon.
And here's what that blueprint looks like. You have the systemic reform, which creates the time and space dedicated purely to learning. You have the advanced tech, which provides a safe, repeatable playground to practice in. And you have the smart pedagogy, the structured feedback that makes sure all those lessons actually sink in and lead to real growth. Each part makes the others stronger.
So, at the end of the day, why does any of this matter to you? It's pretty simple. A better trained surgeon means a safer procedure. It means fewer mistakes, better outcomes, and more effective care for you, for your family, for anyone who might one day need an operation. This revolution in training isn't just an academic exercise. It's a revolution in patient safety.
We are moving into a new era. The surgeon of tomorrow is going to be trained with the same rigor as an airline pilot. They'll be assisted by AI, giving them real-time feedback. They will step into their first real operation more prepared, more skilled, and more competent than any generation of surgeons that has come before them. This transformation is happening right now. The only real question left is, are we ready for it?